Hi everyone, and welcome to Nettie Bakes It. Today we're going to be making German chocolate cake. If I could describe German chocolate cake in words, it would be chocolate cake heaven. German chocolate cake is a moist, 3-layered chocolate cake filled and topped with a rich, chewy custard coconut pecan frosting. Now I have to admit, German chocolate cake is one of my favorite cakes to make. I cannot even show up to a family function without it. Before I even get out of the car, people are like, Nettie, did you make the German chocolate cake? Or, I know you made a German chocolate cake. It is crazy, but trust me, it is music to my ears because I love when people love my cakes. Now this cake takes a lot of steps and a lot of ingredients, but trust me, if you just have a little patience, you will have a seriously delicious cake. For the ingredients, we'll need baking spray, 2 cups of flour, 2 cups of sugar, 2 sticks of unsalted butter, half a cup of water, 1 package of German sweet chocolate, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 4 eggs, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1 cup of buttermilk, Now, this recipe that we're going to make today is actually from the German chocolate box. And for a lot of years, they put the recipe inside the box, but for the last few times that I made this, I noticed that it wasn't inside the box. But you can always go online if you need to get the actual recipe from the actual website. Now, first we're going to make sure that our oven is on 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Then we're going to spray our pans. I love to use baking spray. It's a lot less cleanup, and your cakes still pop right out. It's really good. And I use the one with flour. So we'll spray that, and we're going to spray that generously. We don't want any cakes to stick. And number 3. Okay. All right. Now we're going to add our butter. That's 2 sticks of unsalted. Okay. Now I always like to make sure that my butter, my eggs, and all of my cold ingredients are at room temperature. That's really important because you don't want to be mixing with a lot of clumps and lumps. You want a nice smooth mixture. Okay, so I'm going to start this. And I usually go on about 4, medium high. Okay. I'm going to add the sugar, 2 cups. This is 1. Alrighty. Number 2. Okay. There we go. And I hear it slowing down a little bit. We'll just pop it up a notch. There we go. Right. More. All right now. It's going to be a nice smooth cake. And now that that's mixing, we're going to add the eggs. Now for this recipe we use 4 eggs, but you have to separate them. And I normally separate them when the eggs are cold. That's a lot easier, just like I did here. Now I'm going to set the egg whites aside, and we'll use those in a few minutes. Now, just one at a time, we're going to put our egg yolks in. And you don't have to beat it to a pulp. You just want to beat it until the egg white itself disappears. We'll do one at a time. And I always like to do my eggs like this and separate them because you never want to get any eggshells into your cake. Okay, just till the yellow disappears, and we'll do the last one. All right, great. Good. Now we'll get our chocolate. Oh yeah, that melted up really nicely. Okay, and if this chocolate isn't smooth, your cake won't be smooth. So make sure you give it a final few whisks. Now I'm gonna totally stop this mixer and I'm gonna pour the chocolate in. If you have this mixer on high speed when you're mixing in the chocolate, just trust me, not a good idea. Pour the chocolate in. All right. There we go. Slowly. Continue mixing. There we go. All right, now we're gonna put in the vanilla extract, pure vanilla extract, no imitations. And that's 1 teaspoon. All right. Smells so good. Okay, and now that the chocolate is settled in, we'll speed it up just a little bit. There we go. Alrighty. I want to scrape that down a bit. Your scraper is your best friend. Alright. We'll get at a few more turns. Okay. And now we're going to add our dry ingredients. Got 2 cups of flour, and our baking soda and our salt. Now I'm just going to put the baking soda in one of these cups of flour, and the salt in the other cup of flour. And when you're baking in the kitchen, you want to make sure that everything flows, because baking is a total act of concentration. If you mess up on one thing, you can just throw it away because the entire thing is messed up. So, okay? Now, I'm going to turn this off once again. I want to mix in all of our flour in the bowl, not outside the bowl. Okay? Let's give that a little slow start. Good. Now I'm going to mix that alternatively with the buttermilk. This is 1 cup of buttermilk, and I normally mix half in at a time. All right. Good, and let that blend nice and smooth. You know, people always think that when they hear German chocolate cake, that it's made from Germany, but that's not the case. This cake is all American. And in fact, the reason that they call it German chocolate is because back in the 1800s, there was a man who worked at the chocolate company named Sam German, and he actually developed this chocolate. So the owners thought, that's perfect. We'll just name the chocolate after you, Sam German, and hence the name, German chocolate cake. They actually named it after him, so all American. So now we're going to put some more flour in. Slow it down, actually stop it. Okay. Put a little of this in, and I'm not going to pour all of this in because I like to do my flour last. I like to begin and end with my flour. All right. There we go. Now, some of you might know me from Facebook, and I'm actually on Facebook at Nettie Bakes It. And go and check it out if you want to see my day-to-day cake world activities. And I got some good recipes on there, and it tells a little bit about myself as well, so you get to know me a little bit better. And now we're going to put the flour in. Okay, and I'm going to stop that, pull this up. All right. All right, we got a cake here. And usually when you mix your flour in, you want it on the lowest speed possible. I want to move all of this over. to one side. Good. And we're going to scrape this down again. This cake smells so good. Okay. Now I'll give it another couple twirls. All right. And now I'm going to get an extra mixing bowl and this whisk attachment, and of course my egg whites that I showed you in the beginning, because we're going to whip our egg whites and we're going to fold it into this cake mix. Super moist. Yeah, I think we're good. Okay. Switch it up here. Okay. Now I'm going to take this off completely. I'm going to sit it on the side. And the paddle attachment comes off. We're going to switch this around. Our whisk attachment. And we definitely need a new bowl. Now you always want to make sure that you have a fresh, clean bowl for your egg whites. You don't want to ever mix any oil in with your egg whites. It'd be a disaster. And we're going to mix these egg whites. We're going to whip them up until they form something called stiff peaks. And I'll show you what that is in a second. Okay, and I'm going to start off slow, pouring in the egg whites. Good. And you want to be careful not to over mix them. You don't want to dry the egg whites out, because you want your cake to have a lot of air in it, and this just really gives it a pop of air. So here we go. Okay. All right, we're getting there. Now, I told you this was a lot of steps and a lot of ingredients, but again, baking is a science. You have to have patience. It's going to be worth it. Okay. All right, these egg whites are working. And we're just about at the stiff peak phase. Now, I'm also on Twitter. If anybody wants to follow me on there, I know you do. Just follow me at Nettie on Twitter, and I tweet about what I'm doing with my cakes, and sometimes I have orders and things that I do for family members, and it's all on there. You get to see another side of Nettie Bakes It. All right, we are getting there. It's looking great. All right. Be good to go here, and I'm going to take this off, and right on the end actually is a little peak, and that's what I mean by stiff peaks. That way you know that it's not overbeaten. I'll take this off. Now I'm going to fold in egg whites to the cake mix. We're going to do half. And basically all folding is exactly what it sounds. You're just folding it in, folding it over. Okay. It's a very delicate cake, so we don't want to go crazy. We just want to simply fold over. Okay. Now we'll add the other half. Fold over. Fold it over. Okay. All right. Now, it may look like a lot of foam at the top, but don't worry about it. During the baking process, this will all disappear. Okay. Fold it. Right. Now what you want to do is you want to put the batter in. You want to make sure that you put the batter in evenly in all the pans. Now some people like to use a scale if you like, but I've been doing this so long I can just do it by feeling it. Okay. There we go. Oh, I want to lick the bowl. It smells awesome. Okay. There we go. All right. And it looks like this one needs a little bit more. Make sure you get all of the batter out. You don't want to waste anything. There we go. Okay. Now, we'll put this on the side, and I'm just going to pick it up, and I feel to see if they weigh the same. That's how I do it. Okay. Feels pretty good. I'm just going to drop it a little, pop the air out, and we're ready for the oven. Put cake in the oven. All right. We're going to close this and we're going to let this bake for 30 minutes. Okay? Okay, now that the cake's in the oven, we can work on the frosting. Now for the frosting, we have to go stovetop. Just gonna turn this on, medium high. Alrighty, just so the flame touches the part here. Now, you're gonna need 1 quart saucepan, and we have our metal spoon. Now I'm gonna put a stick and a half of butter. Right. 12 ounces of evaporated milk. Okay. 4 egg yolks. Whoops, splashing all over the place. Okay. 1.5 cups of sugar. And a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Okay, now we're gonna stir this constantly. Now this frosting is a very delicate frosting, and if you take your eye off of it for just a moment, it will scorch or burn. And you'll have to start all over again. And you know, with all these steps, we definitely don't want to start all over again. So we're gonna continuously stir for about 12 minutes. And we want to make sure that this custard gets nice and thick. I think I could drink this frosting. You know, I was just thinking, when my husband and I first got together, we went to a family dinner. And everybody ate, everybody was nice and cool and everything, but at the end, it got a little odd. When they announced that it was time for dessert, I noticed everybody getting aluminum foil and getting containers, and I thought to myself, well, what's going on here? All the mothers and the aunts were in the back in the kitchen. I said, well, they take dessert seriously. Anyway, their aunt, Barbara from South Carolina, who rarely comes up, made this German chocolate cake. Now, growing up, I had heard of German chocolate cake, but I never really made it. You know, me and my grandma, we stuck to the pound cakes, coconut, you know, red velvet, just the staples. But this is a fancy cake. So anyway, she comes out with this cake, and it was a stampede. I was like, this is crazy. I mean, people were elbowing, pushing, even the babies. I was like, see, this is some foolishness right here. What is going on? So my husband, one of the bum rushers, actually made his way back over to our table, and he brought me a piece of the German chocolate cake. I took one bite of that cake, and I knew why everybody was going crazy over that cake. It was so good. And I said, somebody got to teach me how to make this cake. I thought I made all the good cakes, you know. So she was nice enough and gracious enough to come over to our house and show me how to make this cake. And since she's out of town and I'm in town, everybody was like, well, why don't you go ahead and make the cake? Why don't you try it now? When you're baking and you have to deal with tradition, or you have to compete with tradition, it's really hard. And I was so intimidated. You know, how is Nettie Bakes intimidated? But I really was. So I started making the cake, and you know, I had people taste it, and it was like, this tastes good. This is kind of on point. This is getting close to Aunt Barbara. So I've been making it ever since, and I have perfected it, and it's been awesome. I think this is my most requested cake, the German chocolate. A lot of people in the family love it. A lot of people at work love it, and it's a really special cake. So take the time to take some hours to make this cake, because you'll really love it. And I just love that there's tradition in baking, especially. It just makes it super special. All right, now this is perfectly thickened, and now I'm gonna add about 1.5 cups of pecans, or pecans. Stir it in. Oh, okay. And now we're gonna add an entire package of our sweetened shredded coconut. It's about 2 2/3 cups all together. I'll put that in, and we'll put it in a little at a time. Go. Or if you prefer to put it in a measuring cup, you could do that as well. Okay, mix half of it in. Okay. Now we don't want to pour the whole thing at once, because we don't want a lot of clumps. We want a smooth frosting. Okay. Now let's keep stirring for just a few more minutes. And also, while I'm stirring this frosting, I want you to keep in mind that the fire is off, okay? So once it thickens, all we do at the end is add our pecans and our coconut, shredded coconut. You don't have to continue to cook it. Heavenly. Okay. Now, before we can frost our cakes, we have to let this frosting cool completely. All right. And I poured the frosting into a small cup, because you can actually have this if you need to. Some people cover the whole cake. Some people just cover a few layers. So I'm gonna frost this. This cake comes out so beautifully. Spread it on. Thick. The thicker the better with this frosting. All right, we'll add a little more. Okay, some people like it oozing out of the sides, but I just like mine thick. Now, I'm gonna take this out. Now, it's on top. I think I'm eating this whole cake. I don't know if I'm sharing. But honestly, if you have some time and you have some patience, try to make this cake. You'll be so glad that you did. And here you have it, German chocolate cake. Heaven on a platter. Or actually, I should name this Aunt Barbara's German chocolate cake, since she was so gracious enough to come over to show me how to make something that has become my most popular cake. Now, also, I'm on Instagram at Nettie Bakes It. I'm on Twitter, again, at Bakes Nettie. And of course, I'm on Facebook. You can always reach me there at Nettie Bakes It. And I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I want you to think outside the box. I want you to come out of your shell if you're in a shell. As far as baking goes, your cakes don't have to be perfect. They just have to be filled with love. And anything homemade has love in it. So again, thank you for joining me in Nettie Bakes.